Hey there, I'm Neil. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the host of my new podcast, Pause and Rewind. I'll be chatting to changemakers, thought leaders, and role models who all share a common goal. They're striving to make the world a more inclusive place. And let's face it, we need it. Each guest has a unique story when it comes to doing their thing, and we often know who people are in the now. But how much do we really know about them? Pause and Rewind takes a moment to explore the experiences in my guest's life that led them to where and who they are now. Because everyone loves an origin story. We'll dive into tales, anecdotes, and what makes our guests tick. So, are you ready to pause and rewind? Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pause and Rewind. So I just sat down with my boss, Michael Stevens. Michael is the founder of We Create Space, which is a global learning platform providing DEI consultancy for organizations that want to make their workplaces more inclusive. And they do this by connecting their collective of queer change makers. We've got over 350 people in our collective now with those organizations. But it goes so much more than that. Yes, there's the corporate client side of things, but We Create Space also provides a community, a beautiful, beautiful community that I have become part of, and I'm so grateful for that, and the opportunities and the people that I get to meet as a result. But I work with Michael every day, so I was really excited to kind of get into his story and get to know him a little bit better. And I am so glad that we took the time to do so. And I really think that you're going to enjoy this episode. I'm just going to pop a trigger warning out there. We do chat about some challenging topics around kind of sexuality, growing up, and eating disorders. But yeah, I loved this conversation. I hope you will too. So please do check it out, like, share, and let me know what you think. Cheers. Michael, hello, and welcome to Pause and Rewind.
Hello, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, absolute pleasure. And we practically speak most days because for anyone that isn't aware, you're my boss at We Create Space,
Well, yes, figuratively.
figuratively. Well, you were an obvious guest for me to have on the podcast, and I'm really pleased to have you on. To start with, tell us a little bit about what the world looks like for Michael Stevens right now.
Well, we are about to enter Pride Month, so it's a busy period for us at We Create Space. We have a lot of activity going on, a lot of kind of exciting community work as well coming up. It's also just kind of coming into summer where I live in Barcelona as well, so energies are kind of changing and shifting, and lots of kind of outdoor activities. So yeah, feeling good. Thank you.
Yeah. And what We Create Space is this constantly evolving. There's so much going on all the time. What are you most excited about?
Oh, I'm always, I think, most excited about just meeting amazing people. Every time I go to an event, I always end up meeting someone new, and they always have a new story to tell, a new perspective. You think you've kind of heard a lot, and then you're suddenly just surprised by another kind of layer or another angle. And all of these stories are so important and deserve to be heard, really.
You've probably heard me talk about this at events, but there's two parts to that. Firstly, I always say that as an events manager, I kind of got on board with We Create Space because I loved the event side of things. But as someone who is a storyteller, I really wanted in on that action because I really love the way that We Create Space brings stories to life. Um, but also just in terms of that, going back to you, there's always someone new to meet. I used to walk away from networking events feeling so drained. I don't know about you, but just feeling like, what am I doing here? Why am I spending my evening doing this? And I just don't get that at We Create Space events.
Yeah, I think it comes with perhaps just a different intention when you go in to kind of cut the bullshit a bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you kind of just get straight to the good stuff. And I think when everyone in the room starts doing that, it really just changes the dynamic and the energy. Yeah.
How has it changed for you in terms of like from those early days of getting We Create Space set up during COVID? Do you think it would look like what it looks like now?
I had a vision of something, and it perhaps didn't necessarily go in exactly the way that I thought it would. But actually, it's funny how things kind of come back round again. And I don't think I really focused too much on the outcome, I'll be honest. I think there was just a real need from myself, like the community was offering, these spaces were things that I needed, and it just so happened to be what other people needed as well. And that was really what guided me, along with just having fun and enjoying the process and making sure that I am kind of, sticking to my values along the way. And it hasn't necessarily been easy. It's certainly been challenging, whether that's through just my own kind of personal growth journey or, navigating being a CEO, a new business, but also just like the kind of the landscape really of the kind of industry that we're working in, and society as well, with everything that's going on both in the LGBTQ plus space, but also kind of wider society. It's a challenging time. Yeah,
A challenging time, but also testament to the fact that We Create Space is needed. You know, what the things we focus on, the conversations we're having and what we're doing is so, so needed.
for sure. I think there is that element. There's certainly, bringing education and awareness to as many people as possible, but I also think we offer a kind of a community space, which is so needed right now as well. So it's not that we only kind of want to, have happy, fun events. Really, we do kind of create space for difficult conversations, but it is also really vital that we can try and bring some joy into our lives at the same time.
Absolutely. I love tapping into that joy. Well, speaking of joy, I'm so excited to speak to you about your story and shine a little bit of light on that. So are you ready to pause and rewind?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Take me back. Tell me all about little Michael.
I'll be honest, like I don't remember a huge amount, and having spoken to other people in the kind of queer community, that can be quite common as well. I do remember, aspects of growing up. So just to give you some like facts, so I was born in Leicestershire in the Midlands in the UK, and I come from a family of all boys. So I've got four brothers, and my dad, like the biggest boy of all of them. I was actually born on my dad's 50th birthday. So I'm the youngest of us all, and the one before me is 10 years older. The eldest is 20 years older, so quite a big kind of age gap. But yeah, quite a kind of testosterone filled household. And yeah, I think that led me to being quite a shy little boy. And I was often kind of, finding solace in kind of artwork and drawing, and actually got like a computer from quite an early age as well. And The Sims, the amount of hours that I think I've spent on The Sims. But yeah, I think always been very kind of creative, quite kind of sweet, and not and a bit spicy as well. But we'll come on to that a bit later. But yeah, I think I have always been very introspective,
Mhm.
and I think that has led me to being able to connect with adults from quite a young age. So I was not afraid to sit down and have a full-on conversation with like my parents' friends, or even when I'd be invited round to friends' houses, I'd always end up like in the kitchen chatting to the mum. And yeah, that has been kind of a big part of my life, really, being able to connect with people and listen to them and kind of just provide that kind of conversational yeah, relationship. Yeah.
I mean, straight off the bat, we can see little Michael now, like straight off the bat.
And little Michael was blonde as well. So yeah,
Okay,
there we go. Two stereotypes.
loving it, loving it. What's some, you said you don't have too many memories, but what are some of your favorite anecdotes that you've heard about yourself?
I mean, I said I was a sweet child, so yeah, I'm going with that. I do remember I loved playing dress up, still love playing dress up. And
We share
especially,
that in common.
yeah, I have about three suitcases now of just fancy dress that I've collected over the years. And it's like, they're my favorite pieces. So, as a child, just digging around in my mum's like makeup and accessories, and wasn't always well received. So that is certainly like something that stands out.
Mhm.
I don't think it was particularly like understood. There was no kind of malintention, but it's something that's stuck with me. And it actually stuck with another kind of family member who saw it as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think I've probably spent the majority of my life trying to reconnect with that child.
It's so important to be able to do that and to give yourself space to do that. Have you been able to work through those memories and maybe have difficult conversations with people about them that perhaps didn't receive that so well?
Yeah. I mean, years of therapy and just work on myself from both like I don't know, just a growth perspective. So trying to just move through it and, first of all, just accepting what happened, feeling actually kind of just grateful, that it happened as well, because it certainly shaped me, who I am now. And just being very kind of now understanding that sometimes people just do their best, and um, that is all that you can kind of ask for in that moment. And it's how we kind of can use that to redefine our relationship with that person moving forward, really.
Yeah. Yeah, so much of that resonates about looking back and I can see now how different I was, very similar, dressed up creative, like but trying to make yourself okay with that and not because people get to their own understanding in their own time, right? We get to our own understanding about who we are in ourselves, but also other people on that journey. And I'm sure there were people that struggled with, um, me as a teenager, never mind as little me growing up when they could sense that I was different.
Yeah.
But they've got there eventually on the whole.
I mean, look, my dad's late 80s now, got Alzheimer's, can't even remember that I'm gay. So yeah,
Right.
it puts things into perspective a bit sometimes when life just moves forward and things change. And there's just a different kind of relationship and different dynamic now.
Yeah, yeah. And I think when you move away and you go and do your own thing, you give yourself permission to breathe. What were you like at school?
I was, I think my mum would describe me as like a bit of a clever clogs. So
Okay.
just almost a bit too clever for my own good. And I was popular with kids, with most kids. And I was well liked by most teachers. I think because I was a bit of a show off and a bit of a know-it-all, I just really knew how to like rub them up the wrong way. And I kind of, I got good grades and I felt like that gave me almost like a bit of permission to act out. Obviously, now looking back, I'm kind of mortified by some of those behaviors, but really, I think it was a call for attention and it was a way for me to kind of express some of that pain that I had kind of inside. I was a very creative child, so I really loved art, and the art room was a very kind of safe space for me. I remember really kind of relying on the art teachers a lot for just holding that space, and I think very special kind of memories there of kind of lunch times just in the art room. Um, and yeah, I think this kind of, I want to say this kind of battle, but it was like a search for like popularity. It
Mm.
it kind of it wasn't my number one priority, but it was more about kind of trying to find that safety and like popularity felt like it would offer me some more safety. And because there was bullying going on by some people, it almost felt like how do I get away from that and how do I run more towards kind of this feeling of being respected or at least kind of being able to just get through the day without having a trigger, someone just calling me a slur or kind of sussing something out. Yeah.
What was your view of do you remember thinking back what your view of the world? Because I know when I experienced that, I just couldn't really understand why. Even going up to the age of of 15, I just didn't understand why people were like that.
Um, I watched the news and I saw what was in the headlines around that
Mm,
time. There was um, a lot of the headlines were around the kind of AIDS epidemic
mm,
and being gay, and I think that just created a whole wave of hate, really. Um, and so I actually, yeah, thought that I had AIDS from a young age because of that,
right.
and certainly kind of impacted my relationship with sex and relationships romantically. So yeah, I think I understood why, but felt very powerless.
Mm,
Had no role models to prove otherwise.
yeah.
So it was more around this like, well, that's just happening. And I even remember praying at night. Like I went to a Catholic school, but didn't wasn't particularly religious. Neither of my parents are religious, but I went to this Catholic school and yeah, thought I'd try out praying. Didn't work though. Well,
No.
I mean, I was trying to pray the gay away. And I think that just really speaks to more the desperation that I felt. It's not that now actually I would describe myself as spiritual and I have a very different relationship with those practices. But at that time, I was really kind of just looking for any solution to make it go away. And um, yeah, that kind of changed when so my dad lived in Spain, and so I grew up kind of between England and Spain, and so as a family we used to travel together a lot, but then also individually, we've always been encouraged to travel as well. And looking back, actually, those moments of being abroad, being kind of outdoors in nature, were actually kind of like some of my happiest and still like continue to be because I think what I felt was just this sense of like freedom, liberation, acceptance, like no one's there to kind of judge. And that's where I think I felt kind of most myself. Yeah.
That's amazing. When you say you were trying to kind of pray it away, are you talking about your sexuality more than the external stuff?
It was a combination
Mm.
of like I think bullying. I was bullied because I was effeminate, being accused of being gay, but also I was quite overweight as a child as well. And so yeah, it was kind of just um, trying to navigate, yeah, that really, those kind of yeah, painful narratives. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that my whole childhood was full of pain. It was just there was, unfortunately, kind of, you know, that was just part of my growing up, really. Yeah,
Yeah.
so bullying, shame, hiding my sexuality as best that I could. But that drove me to an eating disorder from a young age. So initially with binge eating and sorry, a trigger warning there for anyone, but I'm going to talk about eating disorders. Um, yeah, I managed to hide this eating disorder for 20 years and it went through various kind of stages of evolution. Um, and I was very overweight, like I said, until I was about 16. So a lot of like negative self-talk, a lot of internalized homophobia, just inner conflicts going on, really. And then when I was 16, I discovered that I could almost like get the same psychological effects as overeating by starving myself. And yeah, my relationship with my body and food occupied a lot of my mind for most of my life, actually, sadly. Yeah.
What were the first signs of you realizing that you needed help with that side of things?
Um, I tried different things, and it was always, I kept telling myself, I'll deal with it tomorrow
Mm.
because I was very good at kind of hiding things. Yeah, very good at hiding things, actually, when you've been doing it since like you're 4 years old. So I was very good at kind of just almost manipulating the situation so that I didn't have to make people aware or feel uncomfortable or just make them kind of, I don't know, feel sorry for me or something like that. So, I mean, I dedicated a lot of my time to work. And for me, that was kind of the biggest distraction was work. And because also when you're so busy at work, you don't have to eat anyway.
Right.
And it provided me with like a good excuse. So yeah, I think it just then really started affecting my body. Um, and that kind of really made relationships very challenging. And I just remember one day I because I couldn't even like eat with my colleagues at work and I would have to make up excuses. We worked in like a big office where everyone used to go for lunch together and you know that I just had started a new job and I thought this job's going to be different. I'm going to do things differently. And I didn't. And that just made me really sad. And I just remember one day I was in the shower just crying, just like, I can't go on like this. And I went to the doctor, and yeah, they actually kind of sent me to an eating disorder specialist. And I decided to tell my boss, and they were so understanding and just said, you do what you need to do to get better. And, that allowed me to kind of go to therapy sessions during the day. And I joined like different kind of group therapy sessions. And yeah, it was not necessarily kind of easy, but once I kind of had made that decision, I knew that I didn't want to go back. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it still an ongoing process in terms of keeping your relationship with your eating disorder in check?
Yeah, I don't think it ever goes away, but I have, you know, developed better habits and routines. I've got more self-awareness now. I know what my triggers are. I know um also kind of the ways that I can I slip into old habits and have developed new coping mechanisms on the back of that, really. And a lot of it can be around like environment as well, and also just getting a bit older and just being more comfortable with my body and also just giving less fucks about what people think.
Yes, that there is a beauty in age. I'm a bit
Yeah.
as you know I'm a bit older than you, and there's definitely like the fucks decrease
Yeah.
with each year that passes by, and I absolutely love it. You're such an advocate for mental health, right? It's one of the first things I knew about you when I came across We Create Space, and how much of your journey has influenced and shaped what you do now?
Yeah, I think mental health was my first kind of entry point into inclusion because after I had a quite traumatic burnout and a period of depression that followed that, what I found was that there just wasn't the support or information or solutions that were relevant or resonated with me as a queer person. And the workplace that I was in, the medical professionals that kind of I went to see, but also the communities that I was part of, there just really wasn't the depth of understanding at that time around like the connection between identity and mental health. I think things have like come on a long way in the last,
Hmm.
5 to 10 years, but generally there was just a lack of understanding around the kind of mental health experiences of queer people. And so, yeah, I went looking just for my own solutions, and thankfully, I found some. I'd done that before, and so I felt confident that I was going to be able to find something, and I did, but they weren't all in the same place. And I guess I found that I had so much more to learn about my own experience. It's almost kind of like you find one thing and it opens up five more things to kind of learn about. And that's exciting, but also kind of, challenging to navigate on your own. But some of the most powerful tools were the simplest ones. So, like breathing, journaling, and group work. And I think the group work really speaks to the power of community, and community is such a key element to healing on
Yes.
a personal level, but also on a societal level. So really through the stories of other people, I was able to start to understand my own story. And really that led me to our mission at We Create Space of bringing people together to learn more about themselves and each other. So whether we're in a kind of a corporate setting or in a community setting, it's about creating space for conversation, connection, curiosity. And yeah, it's those elements that continue to inspire me and shape the future of We Create Space.
Yeah. And inspire so many others as well. Like I've said to you, I knew about We Create Space for quite a while before I joined the team, and just yeah, was that community, everything that it's all about really, really spoke to me. I mean, inclusion. back around kind of like, our age wasn't a big thing when we were teenagers. What was the original plan?
So I wanted to be a fashion designer. So, like I said, I found kind of a lot of yeah, solace in kind of drawing and just getting really enveloped in creating a world. And I remember I used to trace kind of the silhouettes of women in the magazines and then like design. I think I designed Beyonce's tour looks when I was about 10
Oh
years
my
old.
gosh, amazing.
But really, yeah, that was the initial kind of plan because fashion offered this world of self-expression that I could only kind of dream of, really. And yeah, that I did end up going down that route. Yeah.
What did that look like?
Oh, so I was studying fine art and French at university, and that took me to Paris for a year abroad. And it was there that I worked for my first fashion magazine called L'Officiel. And I started doing catwalk photography, and I was invited to Barcelona for Fashion Week. And I got sat next to someone who worked at a magazine in London where I'd applied 15 times for an internship and not had a reply. And suddenly I'm there next to them
Oh my
and
gosh.
ended up spending the whole weekend together. And they got me an internship, which started, the month after. So then went to London. And after that internship, I was offered a full-time job and I stayed at ID Magazine for 3.5 years, I think, doing creative projects and event production. Got to travel the world hosting Fashion Week parties and yeah, doing lots of fun things.
Sounds glamorous. It sounds amazing. Obviously, that comes
I
with a
won't tell you
dark.
how much I got paid, but yeah,
Yeah,
sounds very glamorous.
I imagine quite shocking. There's obviously a dark side that comes with that side of things as well. But do you miss it on the whole?
I do not, no.
Okay.
Um, it was certainly a period that I look back to fondly, and I've
Hmm.
met some of my best friends through that, and I had a lot of fun. Too much fun, probably at some points, but it was a chapter, yeah, that has now kind of closed. Although, ironically, like we still work with, some fashion clients providing now kind of um, consultancy, and yeah, that's almost like a really lovely plot twist.
Yeah. Dip back into it, but your own kind of like rationale and reasoning. I love that. What's perhaps a lesson or a person who shaped you most along the way?
Ooh. Um, Probably comes back to the kind of burning out, really. And although that led me to essentially doing what I'm doing today, because it allowed me to shed a lot of armor that I've been carrying around and, drop a lot of masks that I've been wearing to exist in different spaces. Um, I really don't believe that we kind of need to burn out or hit rock bottom to kind of change the way that we live. And, some of these insights, yes, come from these difficult situations, but I really believe that kind of mental health is tied to creativity and innovation. I think we have to kind of see them as connected. We can't innovate if we're constantly under stress. And our bodies have so much wisdom to offer, and yet we often ignore what they're saying to us. When I burnt out and I went to the doctor, I had eczema all over my body. I had insomnia. I had IBS. I was also just, couldn't move my neck because of the neck pain. So the signs were there. I just didn't want to listen to them. And I think we can put just way too much pressure on ourselves to prove our worth. So to create perfect versions of ourselves that essentially try and please others, but you can never please everyone. That's another kind of I've got so many lessons, I think. It's almost just I don't know, I understand the value of just slowing down now
Yeah.
and connecting with myself. And like we said before, just caring less what other people think.
Well, I mean, burnout has taught me tons. It's something I've experienced recently at 41. Never thought I would. That's something that I've thought that I would go through, and it definitely taught me that perfection it just doesn't exist, and it's just futile trying to match those standards and I put a lot of that on myself as well. I think your version of slowing down and my version of slowing down though is probably so different to so many people's, right?
Yes. But one step at a time, Neil, okay?
I know, yeah. Because I know that like I have slowed down, but it definitely doesn't look like that on the outside. But there's a joy that comes with that as well, and actually finding joy and finding kind of excitement in so many different things, and variety is really important to me.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we'll come on to it maybe a bit later, but I think it's so important when working specifically in the industry that we work in as well. Because although it can feel kind of everything's very urgent,
Yeah.
that level of urgency really just can have such an impact on us, and the work that we do. Yeah.
That's true, and that comes with just being very passionate, compassionate, empathetic. Yeah, no, 100%, and that feeling that urgency. But being agile and being creative and innovative in what we do are all super skills that come with it as well. Does happiness and success look and feel like how you thought it would?
It's shifted. So success was definitely based on external factors.
Mm.
Kind of growing up, it was the job role, the number of zeros potentially on like the salary. It was what people thought of me doing what I was doing. And now it's much more about finding peace, having that sense of safety, healthy body and mind, and really finding those kind of strong community connections and that support network.
What are you most proud of to date?
Looking back, I really did not think that I would end up here. And I think that's quite beautiful because it really shows that anything can happen. And although perhaps I had an idea of what the best possible outcome could be, even my imagination didn't create how good it actually is now. So looking back, there's this element of kind of you need to just trust that it will kind of work out the way it needs to work out. But it does all also make sense. Like it all kind of has this connectedness to it because, yeah, I guess it's funny, like no matter how much emphasis we can put on an aspect of our life, you fast forward 5 years and it's not even something we necessarily even talk about or think about. So a lot can change. And I think it comes back to another lesson, really, of just really enjoying the present because I think that is kind of often all we have. And um, it's it certainly kind of can help make those decisions more authentic and drive you to places that only kind of your internal self knows, really.
Michael, I'm convinced I'm going to get you to write a book on all your lessons. I
Please
love it.
let it be a short one because
Sure.
writing is not my strong point. Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait till after Pride season. The House of Happiness is London's ultimate sober clubbing extravaganza. We're led and delivered but created for all, whether teetotal, sober curious, or just taking a booze snooze. We love a day rave, and on a Saturday afternoon you can expect banging house tunes, DJs on decks, dancers on podiums, and a fully stocked alcohol-free bar. Flamboyant, bold, with a glitter station to boot. We're all about safe, inclusive fun, and we even have a pre-meet so that you can make new sober buddies before you hit the dance floor. Grab your tickets from Instagram now at House of Happiness Official, and we'll see you on the dance floor. Are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. What album, book, or movie has had a lasting impact on you?
Okay. So I couldn't think of one book. There were three that I was reading at the same time, and collectively they had quite a long-lasting impact on me. So the first one was by Gabor Mate, Dr. Gabor Mate, When the Body Says No, and that talks about the impact of stress on the body. Um, the second one was Alan Downs and the Velvet Rage, and that felt like, who is this person writing about my life? It gave me so many kind of insights into just, yeah, my own story. And then the third one was Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. And that really allowed me to imagine something new from what was happening and almost not get too bogged down in my own thoughts and my own kind of, I guess, perception of my experiences. Because I think sometimes when we're doing this kind of deep trauma work, it can feel just so heavy and it can feel like that is the most important thing is to like figure this out. But yeah, that really kind of breathed in this kind of this fresh perspective.
They all sound like amazing books. Are they books that you dip back into regularly?
Yes, so I mean, Velvet Rage, I think every gay person kind of should read that book.
I haven't actually.
You haven't. It's not necessarily for everyone, but I think it's yeah. I mean, it was pivotal in kind of my journey. And yeah, Eckhart Tolle has a wonderful voice. So if you like ebooks, audiobooks, then yeah, I would recommend that.
Thank you. What's a saying you live by and one that you'd put in the bin?
I couldn't think of one that I'd put in the bin, and I think that's probably because I'm such a big fan of like positive affirmations. I just don't have like any ones that I wouldn't kind of yeah find some sort of little nugget in. But again, couldn't think of one. But the first one was by Oprah, and she said, "Think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness." And I think that kind of really spoke to me and just kind of the, yeah, taking risks and having kind of self-confidence. I love that. And then the second one was, I don't know who said it, but it's not your job to like me, it's mine.
Oh, boom.
Yeah.
It's not your job to like me, it's mine. Yeah, there's so much freedom when you learn to like yourself.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing thing, I
It
find.
is.
Yeah.
It is. I always say that a lot of my discovering to learn to like myself came with sobriety and just giving myself a chance to get to know myself a little better. But I find that when you do the work, and I know that you're passionate about doing the work, you learn what are the things you're going to accept, what are the things you like, but also what are the things you are going to change if you want to. There's just so much more freedom in it.
Yeah, and it's not like I feel we have to be doing it all the time. That
Yeah.
could just be a bit exhausting. Like, can just have some fun and
Yes.
yeah, be more open to what life, comes at you. But I think there's always moments. I try and have like key moments of reflection. So times of the year, for example, are quite important. Or for me, with We Create Space, after Pride season is quite important to do like a reflection, and then before we start the new year. So yeah,
But not all the time. That's
not
really important. That's super important. What has been the best adventure of your life so far?
the one that I'm on right now for sure. Yeah, I don't think there is another one that's better than this. Yeah.
That's so exciting. What three words would you use to describe you and your origin story?
Um, Yeah, so the three that kind of came to mind initially were determination, intuition, and community, which we touched on all three, over the
Yeah,
last hour.
love those. Love those. Are you ready to fast forward a little bit?
Let's go for it.
Let's do it. What exciting things do you have coming up?
Well, as I mentioned, it's Pride season coming up, which is, both terrifying from just the amount of projects that we have going on, but also really exciting. It's always great to engage with kind of new clients and really kind of have some of these wider reaching initiatives taking place. So we've got our very first We Create Space Awards and Gala happening in the middle of June. So that's recognizing queer leaders who are creating space for others and driving change within the LGBT plus community. So really excited to see what happens there and who kind of we're going to be kind of bringing into that space to celebrate.
It's so exciting. I'm so excited to be that I'm going to be in Barcelona for it as well. So I'm dead excited. And obviously kind of like launch the new course and there's so much so exciting stuff going on.
Yes, our campus, so our online kind of social learning platform for our kind of community of change makers has really taken off, and there's some really lovely elements now that are kind of filling up. So we've got the learn part, which is all about kind of bringing our resources to the community, then the connect, which is about kind of spaces for networking and where we kind of promoting events in different cities, and then Grow, which we just launched recently, which is our online e-learning courses, and yeah, available now.
Boom, boom, plug. What brings you joy?
Oh, like we've said, listening to the stories of others and just connecting with people in the community. Yeah. I mean, we host a lot of events, as you know, and sometimes, although, I mean, having studied art and spent a lot of time on my own, I do actually really enjoy alone time, and I do need it to reset and to re-energize. But sometimes when I don't feel like going to an event, and then I get there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I needed. And so,
Yes,
yes, connecting with other people can really kind of bring me joy.
absolutely. What takeaways do you have for anyone listening wanting to carve out a career in inclusion or simply create an inclusive space?
Yeah, like we discussed, really, when you're working in this field and you're super passionate about these causes, it can feel as though everything is really important, everything's really urgent. You can feel as though it's all that you're talking about. But I would say some advice is like find time to get out of your head and kind of really prioritize well-being, self-care, whatever that means to you. For me, that means having a routine. It means about really understanding what my priorities are, putting them in the diary and not moving them for anyone. And like I said, just really having those moments for reflection, self-reflection. Yeah.
Thank you. And my final question for you, do you have any words of wisdom or encouragement for anyone out there to help them get to wherever they are going?
Of course I do. Yes. Another
Course.
life lesson. Here we
Lessons.
go. Yeah. So I think what came to mind was this phrase around be the change that you want to see in the world. And for me, that has obviously manifested in this kind of concept of create space. So externally and internally creating space. It's part of my growth journey. I feel like it's part of a community's growth journey. So externally, really creating space to speak to other people, really listening to what they have to say, and internally understanding your own experience and your own identity, your own bias, really. And uh, I love, yeah, holding space and educating, and telling stories. And yeah, hopefully other people are going to kind of also benefit from that along the way as well.
They 100% are. And you hear it all the time at our events, the difference that We Create Space is making. So, Michael, thank you so much for being a guest on Pause and Rewind and sharing your story.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much.
Right, I better go do some work. Cheers. I learned so much about Michael during that episode, and we work together every day. So it was brilliant to get to take a moment to hear more about his story. And the three words he uses to describe it are determination, intuition, and community. You can see how all of those are fundamental to seeing who Michael is now, from a young child through to creating space literally for people to come together, community being a fundamental part of who he is and what drives him to do the work that he does with We Create Space. Michael's lessons were littered throughout the episodes, and it's great to see how he has channeled all of his learnings around himself, some hard times as well, and harnessed them from boundaries and mental health through to prioritizing himself, and just the way that he shows up to other people and created something that makes a real difference. We Create Space, I love working there. If you are looking for an organization to support you in your diversity, equity, and inclusion provision and support for your staff and your colleagues, then please do reach out for us. We do everything from events, consultancy, and programs, bespoke packages, through to research, and we'd love to work with you. And also from a community perspective as well. Come along to our events. They're a great way to meet other people. And the We Create Spaces vision is to help people learn, connect, and grow. So, Michael, I really appreciate you being on Pause and Rewind. Thank you so much for listening. To those of you that have, please like, subscribe, share with anyone you feel might benefit from listening, and stay tuned for more amazing conversations on Pause and Rewind. Cheers.